Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Fallon and today I'm going to be showing you the Coneflower Crossbody bag from Blue Cala Patterns. This bag has quickly become my new favorite bag, so I'm going to be showing you a complete walkthrough on putting this bag together. Now, if you want to make one along with me, you'll need to go down to the description of this video and purchase the pattern, because I'm not going to be giving any dimensions or anything like that as I walk through the pattern. Just going to be doing a full walkthrough so you can see how it's made. I'm going to show you why this is quickly become my new favorite pattern to make. First, it has a nice crossbody strap. I love crossbody bags. So it fits really nicely because it's not a big, thick, bulky bag. It's nice and slim. That is also what I look for in a purse. I don't like bags that are too big. I don't carry a lot of items with me. So having something that is smaller and a nice size is really important to me. It also has a lot of different features that I appreciate, like easy access to items that are in the front of the bag. Yes, this is a front. The other side does have the flap, and you could use either side of the front, but it was designed with in mind having the main access panel be to your body so that nobody can easily grab anything out. So let me take you in for a closer look on this bag because it is just amazing. Okay, so on the front of the bag, we have that zipper pocket here. And it is nice and big and roomy. It's basically the same size that you see here on the outside. It's a nice slim bag. I like the way it was designed with having the connector hook here down the side and the end tucked into the seam here. It just makes a really nice clean look. I did add these extra rivets on myself. So if you do like that look, make sure you grab some rivets because I don't believe they're listed in the materials at all. I just wanted to add them on for looks. And I also explained that with the bulk here, sewing over it with the material that I used just wouldn't look as clean as I wanted. So I added some rivets on. The hardware I purchased from Emmeline Bags. This beautiful faux leather I purchased from Sally Tomato. And I believe my zipper here was from my Handmade Space. I'll put links to some of my favorite bag supply shops in the description. So there is the front end of the bag. The bag has this flap here, and you'll be using some magnetic snaps to keep that secure. I used a linen for my lining. I purchased it from fabric.com. And then what I do like here is that you also have this nice big slip pocket that's in the enclosed area. It would probably fit a small like iPad or anything like that, a book you're reading. And then in the main compartment, you have two slip pockets. And I chose to put mine with the main fabric that I was using just because I thought it would look really nice, or that accent fabric on the front. And then you also still have another nice roomy zip pocket here. So I think it's a great bag. It's nice and slim. It's not bulky at all. It is a very beginner friendly, in my opinion, bag, and I really enjoy making it. It is a quick sew and just beautiful shape. I love it. So I'm gonna get started showing you how to make this bag. Okay, so to get started in making the Coneflower Crossbody bag by Blue Cala Sewing Patterns, we are going to take the front pocket D along with our 9-inch zipper placed on top with the zipper pull to the right. We're going to take this over to the sewing machine and just baste it in place. So with about 1/8 of an inch seam, and I'm just going to use some clips here to hold it in place. And then after we baste it in place, we're going to put our front pocket D right sides together on top of it. So just lay it on top like this after it's basted in place. And then we're going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance across it. We're going to press them open and then just do a nice top stitch across the top, going through all of the layers. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and sew this. Okay, so we have our front panel finished. Our zipper is all in place, and now we are going to take our front pocket E lining, place it right side up on our work surface, and then we are going to place the pocket panel that we were working on top of it, line everything up, and put a few clips in to hold it in place. And we're just going to baste about 1/8 of an inch across the top of this zipper. All right, so now we have that lining piece in place, and we are going to take our front flap, our main flap exterior C, and we are going to place this wrong side facing up, so right sides together along the top, and we're going to sew it in place with a 1/4 of an inch seam. So I'm going to put a few clips here just to hold it in place and just baste across the top. And then I'm going to turn it and we're going to top stitch across there as well. Okay, now that we have finished with this front panel, we are going to set it to the side and we're going to work on this B panel. This is a lining, and it's the lining for the front flap of the bag. And what we are going to do is we're going to be attaching some hardware here. So we have these magnetic snaps, and you can see I've already used the pattern pieces to mark where the hardware is going to go. And now I'm just going to mark where I'm going to create the slips for the hardware prongs to go through. So per the pattern I'm going to be attaching the male sides of the magnetic snaps. So I like to use a little seam ripper, and you just want to gently go across. You don't want to rip too big of a hole. Then once you get the prongs through, you can put the little washer on and bend the prongs over. Nope. One done. All right, and then what I'm going to do is take a piece of Decovil and fuse it over this. And what that will do is just kind of help it not harm the lining of our bag in any way where this sits across. You don't want to have the metal pieces rip through any of the fabric that it's going to be up against. All right, so now that we are finished with this piece, we are going to place this main flap that we completed before with the zipper pocket. We're going to place it right sides together with the one that we just attached the hardware to. And I'm going to put some clips in place to hold this, and we're just going to be sewing with our seam allowances per the pattern just around the curved loop. So we're not going to go all the way around. We're just going to start where the curve is here, come up, around, and end. All right, so now I'm going to put a few slits along the curve here, just so it hopefully lays a little nicer. All right, and then we're going to flip this around. It's right sides out. All right, so if you have turned this and you don't like how your curves are laying, you can turn it back right side out and kind of check. Maybe you have too much bulk in your curves, so trim your seam allowance down a little bit. But those are a few things you can look at to see how you might be able to adjust so you like how the smoothness of the curve. I also use a turning tool, like a creaser a little bit, and I can use that to come in and kind of smooth out the seam there too if needed. So just some things that will help if you don't like the way the curve is laying. I'm going to add a few clips to hold my seam in place, and then I'm going to go top stitch just along this part that we sewed. I'm not gonna come all the way around. We're just going to top stitch along the curved area. I like to add a few clips just so I make sure my seam stays down and I don't have to worry about anything pulling out of place. See how that's tucked back in there. I don't want it to do that because then I'll lose that area that's going to need to get sewn later if it tucks down. So this just helps make sure everything lays where it's supposed to. All right, so I'm going to go do an 1/8 of an inch top stitch just around the curve. All right, so now we have this area all top stitched. It looks beautiful. And now we're going to take our body A piece and lay it right sides up on our workstation. And we are going to place this flap that in front pocket that we have all assembled on top of it and kind of line up the bottom edge curves. And we are just going to baste along here from where we stopped sewing before, just baste around the curve and back up to hold all of this in place. And this is nice because we're gonna have this zip pocket in front here, but when we open the flap, we're gonna have a slip pocket here now as well. All right, so now we have this front flap finished, so we're going to set it to the side. And we're going to grab our other body A exterior piece. So again, we have some markings that I already put on here. They are also from our pattern piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my washers from the other female side of the magnetic snap, and I'm going to mark where I'm going to make some slits. And then here I'm just going to kind of repeat these steps from before. I'm going to use my seam ripper and create these slits, put the prongs through. Okay, so for now we're going to set aside this body piece and work on our side connectors. So I marked down the middle of the side connectors already, and I put a piece of double-sided tape down the center. So what I'm going to do is remove the double-sided tape. And I actually really love how these are assembled because it helps not have to worry about lining up stitches or anything like that. I really think it's a genius way to construct these so they really look nice and finished. So I'm going to fold each side into the center. And just so you know, my straps in these side connectors are smaller than the pattern. So if mine look really tiny, it is because they are smaller than the pattern. It's just I had this hardware on hand, and I thought it would look really nice with this gray faux leather. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch along each of the sides that are folded in on both of these side connectors. All right, so now that the side connectors are sewn, we'll need our D-rings and our side gusset panels. And you can see that I have the center marked on both of those. So what we are going to do is we're going to put our D-ring on, and we want our center that's, you know, slit where they're meeting on the inside. And we're going to go about 2.5 inches down. So I'm at 2, I need 1/2 inch. All right, and I'm going to hold it with a clip for now while I get both of them ready. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape down the middle of this. To hold everything in place for when I go to sew it. So I have the double-sided tape on there, and I'm going to center it down the middle of this panel. And I want it to be straight, so I'm going to grab one of my rulers. Just kind of use it as reference to try to tell if it's completely lined up straight or not. All right, I think I got it pretty good. And then we're just going to do the same on the other side. All right, so what I'm going to do, and it's going to be a little different than the pattern, I'm going to just sew up to an 1/8 of an inch up to where the where you see the bottom tucked under, and then sew down, and then I'm going to add some rivets up here, because I found that when I try to sew up all this thick fabric, what happens is it'll push to the side, and I just don't like the way that looks. So I'm just gonna add maybe 2 or 3 rivets on each side to go through all that thick fabric meeting there, and sew up to stabilize here. Okay, so I have my hardware out, and my side connectors are sewn, and I'm going to attach the 3 rivets on each side. All right, so now I need to attach the rivet press dies, because I had the whole die in, the hole cutting. If you would like to do something similar, if you're using some thicker material and it's hard to sew through all those layers and keep everything even. I measured down from the hardware 1/4 of an inch and then marked where my first rivet would go, and then they're an inch apart from there. And I actually think it's really gonna add a nice little layer to these side straps. So now we have the gusset bottom of the bag, and what we are going to do is we're just going to sew with our seam allowance along each side. Make sure your hardware is up. Let me know what you think in the comments, but I just think this rose gold hardware looks absolutely amazing on this leather, this faux leather. So the faux leather is from Sally Tomato, and the hardware is from Emmeline Bags. And I believe on Emmeline Bags' site, it is called a copper instead of a rose gold, but I love this combination. So now we are going to grab our main panel that has the flap on it, and we're going to be attaching the gusset to it. So what we're going to need to do is find our center marks. And so I just fold it over. Sometimes I remember to mark at the beginning, and sometimes I don't. So I'm going to put a mark here in the center, just within the seam allowance, and then do the same on the gusset. And I'm going to mark on both sides of the gusset because I'm going to need that line to do the other side. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to first clip matching up the bottom of the bag. And then we're going to kind of turn this and bring it up and clip at the top on both sides. And what I usually do is start working down towards the curve, and I put a ton of clips in. And I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I'm going to add some slits that are within our seam allowance along the curve. And I'm going to do that on the gusset and on the back of the And then I'm going to use my stapler here just within the seam allowance and staple along the curve here. All right, so I'm gonna sew along here with the seam allowance, and then I will trim down to an 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch close to my stitches. And then I'm going to put on the other side of the bag. So I'll do those same steps that I just did here to attach this panel as well. Okay, so I have both sides sewn onto the gusset, so now we're going to turn it and take a look at it. Just look at that. Oh my goodness. That is, I'm really happy with how this is turning out. Just gorgeous. All right. So I'm going to set this to the side and we are going to start working on the lining of the bag. So the first thing we're going to do is sew the lining gusset, and this is going to be super easy because it is pretty much the same as the outer gusset, except we don't have to attach any side connectors. So we're just going to sew our seam allowance, connecting right sides together with the side and the bottom lining gusset on both sides. I'm going to sew this on my domestic machine because I'm not using the foam per the pattern. I just am using some linen fabric and the Shape Flex, and it's just not sturdy enough for my my Juki Industrial to sew through. It'll bunch it all up. So I'm gonna go sew 1/4 inch along each side, and or not 1/4 inch, I'm talking about quilting. I'm going to use the seam allowance per the pattern. And then we are going to work on the lining slip pocket. All right, so we have our gusset finished. So I'm going to set this to the side and we're going to work on the slip pocket panel. So for the slip pocket panel, we have these lining A pieces. We're just going to need one of them for the slip pocket. Oh, and I accidentally grabbed the zip pocket fabric. So I decided to make my slip pocket match the outer part of the bag. You know, that's not really necessary. You could just use the lining fabric and have it match. I just thought it would look pretty. So what we are going to do is put the slip pocket pieces right sides together. And then we're just going to sew across just the top to create our slip pocket. And then we are going to fold them wrong sides together after it's sewn and press it really good and top stitch across the top. Okay, you see I have a seam stitched, and now I'm going to press it open. And I'm going to add a little bit of heat from the iron across there. Okay, and so since I have a pattern piece here, what I'm going to do is see which side I think is prettier. I really like this big cluster of flowers here, so I'm going to top stitch across here with about, I'm going to do a 3.5 thread length across here on my machine, just to get a nice top stitch across there. And then what we're going to do after top stitching it is we're going to lay it on our lining piece, line it up, and I'm going to baste it in place. So I'm going to stitch around here. I'm actually going to come up the middle and then come back down and stitch across. And this is going to make 2 pockets for me. So before I go stitch, so I can do this all at once, I'm going to mark where my centers are so I know where I want to come up when I stitch this in place on the lining piece. It's kind of right at that middle of that little flower there. Now this is just some chalk, so it should just come right off conceivably. But so I'm going to take these pieces over and first top stitch across the top and then just baste in place around here. Okay, so we have our slip pockets finished in the lining. So I'm going to set this to the side and we are going to work on the zipper. I already have the zipper facing drawn in place. If you don't have yours drawn in place already, you'll need to do that. And then we are going to need our other lining. This is the body A lining piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to center the zipper per the instructions, and that looks good. So I'm going to use some clips to hold that in place. I have all these really cute clips that I got from Lauren Mormino's page. These longer ones will work nice, I think, here. I just need to find them in all my stuff. So I'm gonna just kind of use this to hold this in place. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow this outer rectangular box and stitch around it. And then after we stitch around it, we are going to cut open along the middle line and the triangles right up to the corner, but not snipping through. And while I'm over at the sewing machine, I'm going to go ahead and prep our zip pockets as well. So set that to the side. So for the zip pockets, we're going to need our 2 zip pocket pieces and our remaining zipper. So what we're going to do here, we're going to cut off 1 inch along one of them, and we are going to press the seam allowances. Okay, so now that we have that all prepped, we're going to take our shorter zipper piece, the one that we trimmed, and we are going to put that right side up, and then we're going to place our zipper with the pull to the right on top of it. So zipper pocket right side up, as well as the zipper pocket or the zipper with the pull to the right. And so we're going to use some clips to hold this in place, and we're just going to baste it to the lining. And then we'll attach the other side. So essentially laying it right side up again and laying our zipper the other side on top of it right side up, but this time the pull will be to the left. Okay, so to get started cutting this open, I'm going to use my seam ripper first, and then grab some scissors to cut the rest of the way. Like I said, you want to get really close to those threads, but not snip through. Okay, so we're going to push our zipper facing through to the other side. Okay, so now that we have this nice window made, we are going to take the zipper that we attached to the two zipper pockets. We're going to lay that window right over the zipper. And I'm going to use some clips to hold this all in place. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a box around the zipper here. And then I'm going to fold the zipper that you see that's like taller hanging up over the top of this. I'm going to fold it down with the bottom zipper pocket and just stitch along the sides just to where our folded seam here is. And we're going to leave the bottom open because this is where we are going to turn the bag later. The reason we press the seam into place here is because it'll help us finish off the bag really nicely later. What I am going to do is I'm going to add a little tag in here into the pocket right before I finish it off. Put that there to remind me, just so that, you know, I remember that it's like a little homemade project of mine. Like I would forget, right? So I'm going to go over and stitch this pocket into place and then the sides of the pocket panel. right, so now our zip pocket is finished. It looks really good. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off any, excess zipper here, just because we don't want that bulk in the lining of the bag. All right, and now we're to the point where we can start assembling the lining of the bag. So what we'll be doing is finding the center again of our gusset, and we'll be attaching it to each of our panels. So we'll go about this the same way we did the exterior of the bag. We're going to clip in the center and then along the top, and just connect along the way. So we're going to sew this side on, and then we'll sew the zipper on. All right, so we have the gusset attached to one side. So now I'm just going to flip it and do the same thing to attach the zipper. Okay, so I have the lining all sewn together and it looks really good. So I'm going to trim down some of this excess here. Oh no, I sewed through some of that. It looks like it's right at the edge. Oh my goodness. I'm going to just make, oops, should work out fine. So you want to make sure your zipper is open, because that's how we're going to flip the bag after. And what I'm going to do with my outer bag is I'm going to put the flap down inside this pocket so that I don't accidentally sew through it. And I'm going to flip my D-rings down. So we're going to insert this bag. So we're going to put it inside the lining, and I'm going to put the zippers facing each other. So just think of it as it's going together, right sides together. And I didn't trim down the lining, like I said, because I got distracted. So I'm just going to trim around these corners. Okay, back on track. So what I'm going to do is line up the gussets that seam right together, and then just put some clips around here. So line up the gussets, and clip, and then go around to the other side, line up the gusset, and clip. And then once that's lined up, I can just go around clipping the entire bag. Okay, so now we're going to sew using our seam allowance around the top of the bag. Okay, I have the top of the bag sewn, and so now we are going to birth the bag. So hopefully you left your zipper open on your lining zipper pocket, and we're going to pull everything through that pocket. Okay, you would really want to use this time to press your bag out if needed, because it's harder to do it once the lining is in and sewn closed. I am going to quickly press my lining here because it got pretty wrinkled with the turning. Okay, so I made sure all my seams are good now. I'm gonna check everything and make sure everything is caught that needs to be caught. All right, and then I'm just gonna push my pocket inside here. Now, you can stitch it closed now if you want, but I'm actually going to wait because to finish this off later, I'm gonna whip stitch my little tag in place so that it's not flopping around. So I'm going to push that inside there for now. All right, so we're going to push the lining inside of the bag. All right, and we're gonna gently start I rub my fingers together along the seam to kind of push it into place. And you'll probably want to put clips across there so that you can top stitch this in place. And then after we top stitch, all we have to finish up this bag, aside from closing the inner zipper pocket, is the crossbody strap. So I'm going to keep working this into place, and I'm going to put some clips across there, then we'll sew it and finish up the strap. Okay, so the bag is pretty much finished. I went ahead and stitched closed the interior pocket after top stitching around, and that tag I put in, I just went ahead and sewed it down on my sewing machine. So it is nice and secure and in place. It's stitched with love and happiness. And this bag is just pure happiness right now. I mean, it is so beautiful. I'm so happy with how it is turning out. So all we have now to do is finish the crossbody strap. And those will attach right here on the D-rings. So I have some rivets for it and a slider. I think it's called a slider. So what we need to do is prep our strap. So again, mine is cut smaller than the pattern says because I had smaller hardware. I went ahead and marked down the center. The steps would be the same whether you are doing the strap the size per the pattern or if you were doing it the way I am. Goodness, I don't know why this paper keeps ripping, but it's entirely frustrating. All right, and then now we're just going to fold the strap in half. All right, and then after I have it all clipped in place, we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew 1/8 of an inch along each side of the strap. All right, so I have the strap all sewn and it looks so good. So now we're going to attach it to the slider. And so we're going to do that by just going up through the middle, down, and I'm just going to use 2 rivets to hold it in place. All right, so I'm just going to eyeball it and put 1 in the middle. Didn't go all the way through. This is a lot of fabric. That one there. And then the next one near the bottom. So I'm going to switch out the dies in the cam press and go ahead and press these now because I don't want them to fall off and the holes not line up. And then we'll attach the rest of the strap. So switching out my dies on this. So there is that. And then I got to put the cutter back on. Thankfully, these dies switch out very easily. Okay, so now we're going to attach the strap. So side that doesn't have the rectangular, the slider on it, we are going to pass through one of the D-rings. I need to pass it through the other way because I want the rough edge of that to be hidden on the inside of the strap. This faux leather is just so beautiful. All right, so we have it going through. I think I'm putting it on the wrong side. Yeah, I'll get it, you guys, I promise. Okay, so I need to have it go on this. I've changed it like 8 times. I've been recording for a few hours, so bear with my brain. Okay, so we're gonna go through there and then see it goes right up against the rough edge, so that'll be kind of hidden on the inside of the crossbody strap. Pull it through there. And then we're going to go through the other side of the slider. And then now you can adjust this to the length that you would like. And then we're going to pass it through the opposite side of the D-ring on the outside of the bag, so that when we come up, that'll kind of be on the inside as well. So I'm going to put 2 rivets here as well. I want to make sure we're folded up about 2 inches just so we stay consistent there. Now we're going to put our rivets in. Make sure I have those ready. Okay, and here is our finished bag. It is just so beautiful. These colors go so nicely together, and I love this rose gold hardware on here. It is just gorgeous. So we have this flap that we could keep crossbody to our body and help protect our items that are inside, and keep this side on the outside with our zipper shut. And we have a slip pocket here. It's nice and sizable. And then we have all the space in here with 2 slip pockets, and then another zipper pocket. This is just a lovely bag. I love it so much. You have plenty of storage, but also it is a nice sleek bag. It's not too big. And with the crossbody strap, it just makes it so easy to carry. I absolutely adore this pattern. I will likely make many more of these bags. Let me know in the comments if you plan to make one or if you have already made one. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like. It helps me out so much and I appreciate that. And also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. That really helps me out as well. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.